Welcome to Dark Loops, the Valkyrie Files, a podcast in which we discuss the new Disney series, Loki. I'm your host, Dr. Scott Jordan, aka Zombie Scotty, cognitive psychologist from Illinois State University. And tonight we discuss episode 3, Lamentis, and episode 4, the Nexus Event. Fellow Valkyrie, please say hello to the audience and tell them a little something about who you are, and we'll start with Tanya.
You'd think I would know how to work mute by now, but apparently not.
Oh, and it's all on film now.
It's on film. Hello, I am TanyaTalapatra. I'm an assistant professor at the University of Denver in school psychology.
Fantastic. Leandra.
Hi, I'm Leandra Parris. I'm an assistant professor and coordinator of school psychology out at William & Mary.
Very, very cool. And Cianna.
Hi, my name is Cianna Greaves. I'm a podcast producer and public radio producer out of Chicago, Illinois.
Excellent. So, episode 3, episode 4, we'll just jump right into it. Favorite character, favorite line, favorite scene. And if I don't get any quick reactions, I'll go ahead.
I just gonna say it. I was right. They're all variants. It's time stamped. It's in the last one. I called it.
Yeah.
All I have to say.
I had so many theories after watching episode 3, and then they all were shot to pieces in episode 4. So I'm despondent.
Well, once Loki fell in love with himself and created a massive Nexus event, then we got a wonderful love story for Loki. Believe me, that was a variant from where I thought they might go. Humanizing chaos is, I guess it's fun, but it's not what I expected. And
I'm sorry, what was that? I didn't catch that at the end.
Well, it's not what I guess it's not what I hoped for,
No.
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 So other reactions.
I feel like there was like so much that happened and yet not at the same time. Like we found out so much cool information that I think like if you were reading this in a comic book would be like, what? Right? But like the way it's being done here, and thank y'all, this is y'all's fault, by the way. I can't get Doctor Who out of my head. So like every scene, like the idea of someone falling in love with themselves, like the master and the mistress,
Yeah.
But the robots at the end of episode 4 was like you could totally see that coming, like even the way they were acting in that last scene. So like when you're talking about like your favorite scene, favorite character, like my favorite character is actually Sylvie. Like I love this actress. I love what she's doing with the role that she's been given. I like the hints of this. Like I'm invested only because I want to know what her Nexus event was.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got me with Sylvie. So that's my answer.
Yeah,
I love Sylvie.
I continue to be a fan of Hunter B15 and just the tears and when she was like, show me. I know we're jumping between episodes 3 and 4, but
That's what we're doing.
I missed her in episode 3 and I was glad to see her back in episode 4. I just feel like I think her presence suggests that she has a larger role to play, and I hope that that's true, but it might just be the force of her acting. I don't know. So I've really been enjoying her arc.
I thought it was kind of, God, I don't want to be a downer, guys. I like this show and I'm going to continue to watch it. And I'm going to root for the plot.
That is the saddest. You're rooting for the plot? Come on, it's not good, y'all.
At least I was like, I like Sylvie. Like Tanya and I are like, I got this one person that like I don't mind seeing on screen. I'm with you. Like
Scott said, I'm rooting for the plot.
Like I think the scenes that we just talked about, the one with Hunter B15 where like she shows her that scene, like that's all I needed to see from
Right.
What I will give him about that scene is they didn't show us what she was experiencing. And I appreciated that. That was her private lived life. And it was more dramatic because we were waiting to be taken into that space. They didn't do that to us. I thought, okay, that's pretty cool, right? And then she acted her way through the scene. That was awesome. I gotta admit, I was touched by the demise of Mobius. You know,
Is he gone though?
well,
Like,
We don't know.
we haven't had our jump the shark jet ski scene yet, so I think
like-
that's got to come. He's
I
gonna
just
dress up.
imagine, I imagine he's in a world with other Owen Wilson. You know, just how, like Loki was pruned and then taken to see, like, you know, vintage Loki and crocodile Loki and kid Loki. It's
That's
like
funny.
Owen Wilson and his like model character in Zoolander and
they
like
all go,
all of
"Wow."
the different acting scenes. Just
someone's
going,
gonna pull up on a jet ski and be like, "Wow."
Exactly.
yeah. I think it would have been more interesting if my theories of them bewitching each other and the whole Lamentis thing being an elaborate enchantment, that would have been really interesting. I'm sad that the writers did not take it there. I'm very sad about that.
I mean, they could be pulling a Loki on us with all of this, right? I mean, they're leaning so hard time and time again into Loki being this redeemable, lovable guy. And, you know, that's okay, but that's Disneyfying Loki. Of course, we are on Disney. But there's just so much more that can be done. I did like the line, what was it? Does being a Loki mean that we're Lokis because we always lose? And he says, no, it means that we don't quit. Is that what he said? I mean, it wasn't even something like
Something
that.
about like we always come back.
Well, yeah.
Lokis are cockroaches. They always come back.
Yeah. I think
Yeah,
there's go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's actually, I think, one of the reasons I'm struggling with this show is because we've had so many movies where he was supposed to have died and he didn't. And like we've had so many incidents. So like the whole reveal that like when he was pruned, like wasn't that shocking. Because he never dies. He never really dies. And so the fact that they keep using the death scene that way, I think it actually would have been way more meaningful if they had done that cut with Mobius instead of Loki, because we're used to seeing Loki come, like, of course, that's like his thing. Like he never dies. Like you can only use that writing trope so many times with the same character. Anyway.
No. By the way, Cianna, I've noticed your Liverpool scarf in the background the last couple of podcasts. You'll never walk alone. And you're pulling for England, is that correct?
Of course.
Of course. So, you know, best to you and your team.
Thank you.
Up against Denmark.
I don't understand anybody's motivation at this point in the show. I'll tell you what the most disappointing scene was: the reveal that the timekeepers were robots. I mean,
I thought they were Muppets.
Big Whovian energy there, okay? Massive. I mean, is the show supposed to be an homage to Doctor? I mean, I'm so confused. The choreography of the fight scenes were horrific.
They were so slow.
They were so slow.
They're supposed to be gods.
Yeah.
Like they should have been able to wipe the room with those people. Sorry, I keep interrupting. I'm sorry, but I'm with you. So slow.
I don't understand how nobody in the timekeepers figured out that.
I got such a Wizard of Oz vibe by that movie.
Don't think Ravonna knew?
Was that? Go ahead.
I'm thinking, I don't know. But does it matter if she did?
I feel like she's in on everything at this point. I don't know. But I appreciated the callback to Falcon and the Winter Soldier when he was like, it's always like, what did he say? It's always like androids, aliens, or I forgot the other thing.
Superhumans or something like that.
I don't remember, but I was like, haha, androids. That was funny.
So do you guys think there's a whole can of plot twist coming our way that's going to put all of these pieces in place? Or
I hope so, because the whole Ravonna Sylvie thing was pretty, like, it felt pretty flat for me. I mean, to say that she was outwitted by a child is not even, I mean, she just grabbed, she had her pocket picked.
Right.
You're telling me she's holding a grudge for that long? She seems to have done very well for herself. She's got a few promotions, it seems. She's a bloody judge. I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
It was such a weird setup for, like, an origin story for a for one of the main characters, and I just didn't get it.
So I'm getting the sense that, I mean, I don't want to call it bad writing. I think that they are doing the Doctor Who thing, and they are trying to churn out all these cool little time puns and that sort of stuff, and trying to be deeply philosophical about chaos. But it's either there's something. It's either they're just trying really hard, or it's too fast, right? In other words, they're telling us so much. We talked about this before, right? And the stuff they're showing doesn't really feel very showy.
Well, I mean, I hate to bring this up again, but it's like Game of Thrones and, you know, even Falcon and the Winter Soldier. What is this, like, why do we feel that we need to keep these massive stories to 6 hours?
I agree.
This could have, they front loaded the show with, you know, so many different, like, there were so many different threads of narrative that were going. Like, this is going to be a massive show. You can tell there are lots of ideas churning in that writer's room, and everything is just falling flat. I mean, we only have 2 episodes to go, only 2 hours to go. None of those threads are really going to go anywhere.
Well, I tell you, I originally didn't see the post-credit scene the first time because I just turned it off. Then I went online and it said there was a post-credit scene, and it's got what looks to be 3 Loki variants saying, "Come with us if you don't want to die." Or he said, "Am I dead?" He goes, "Not yet. Come with us." So then it's like, what is this, the Loki apocalypse? Or, and so you assume that something's going to come in there. But you said, like you said, there's 2 hours left, and you know, by this point in Wanda, it was already 75% done. I mean, all the work was intense, and
the stakes were so high.
They were
at this point in Wanda. The stakes were so high. I don't know I really care what happens to Loki or anyone.
That's a real.
It just like.
Then how many times really can you tell us that the TVA is so important, right? How many times do you get to say it versus somehow show it, right? Yeah.
Like, they don't show necessarily what happens when they do allow a Nexus event to, you know what I mean? So, like, is this just some mastermind's way of always getting things the way that they want? Like, okay, fine, but then, like, can we get some more backstory there? I think one of the things that I keep trying to keep in mind is that these 3 series, the WandaVision, Captain America, Falcon, sorry, I already call him Captain America, and this one is supposed to lead up to like a movie. And so I'm wondering if they're like, the writers didn't think through enough about like and I think it is Game of Thrones, Cianna, like they aren't thinking enough about, all they're thinking about is we have to get to the Mad Queen scene. We have to get to the point where she burns down a whole village. They're not thinking about what the journey is supposed to look like.
No.
And so I think that that's where a lot's getting missing. Whereas with WandaVision, it's actually a much more simpler story where you can tell like it's leading straight into the multiverse with, you know, the Darkhold. So I'm wondering if like with Loki, everyone just loves Tom Hiddleston, so they're trying to make room for him in this story. And I don't know, like I just feel like it is, I think you're right, Cianna, like a very much like there's a goal they're trying to get to and they're skipping stones to get there. And the only thing I can think of is that the TVA is in the quantum realm, and all of this is just for you to get to understand the TVA. Like this whole thing is just for you to see the TVA.
In a way, I almost wish that this was about Sylvie and introducing Sylvie and not about Loki at all. I mean, it still would have been about Loki, but about Sylvie. And I think that would have been really interesting and really useful. I am disappointed that we didn't learn what caused her to be the variant. Was it just her birth? And if it was her birth, why did they wait until she was like, I don't know how old she was, however old she was. It felt petty for Ravonna to be like, I don't remember. And I'm like, of course you remember. You have a whole shrine dedicated to that in your office with the helmet and the pruning stick and the sword. Like, you remember. Like, why won't you tell us? And I don't think the writing is clever enough that it feels intentional. It just comes across as petty. And so in some ways, there was just a lot of like, womp womp as you were watching it. I didn't get obviously, since I haven't watched Doctor Who, I didn't get the Doctor Who references, but the android scene was disappointing. I was like, first, they look like Muppets. So the CGI, like, kind of to be like the big all-knowing beings, you were like, this is it? This is a Jim Henson character. Yeah, I feel like there's just been a couple, like, it felt like it was building up to something and then it dropped back down, right? Like this whole thing about finding out about Sylvie and then you never find out. This whole thing about meeting the timekeepers and then you're just like, and robots. So.
Yeah. Well, there was one event at the end of episode 3 that mattered in episode 4. And in episode 4, they were calling it the Nexus event that took place on Lamentis. What was the Nexus event that happened? And it was Loki falling in love with himself, right? They never put words to it in episode 4. But I wonder if somehow there's something to that, where somehow when chaos falls in love with itself, metaphorically birthing more chaos. Guys, I'm reaching here, but it seems to be, if you think about, if one thing, okay, that's what they called a Nexus event and the biggest Nexus event they'd ever seen. And then at the end of episode 4, you've got these 4 Lokis together, in the flesh, as it were. You wonder if somehow when Lokis get together, that's the problem. I don't know.
I do think there's an element, and I almost found it a little heavy-handed, about self-love and self-acceptance, that Loki has clearly always had a bit of self-loathing, and that's always been his driving whatever. And so a whole season about Loki learning to accept who he is.
Yeah, and I don't want
you know what I mean? But like I am a little kind of like in that thing where like, okay, so all of this was about him learning to accept who he is and self-love and affirmation. So Wanda's grief, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, social justice and racial equity, and this is about self-love. And I don't know that this one comes off.
That's interesting. If that's what they're after, we'll see if they do anything more with that in the next 2. But I think they miss. And the Doctor Who thing, the more we talk about it here, the more I feel they're leaning into it as a way to make jokes and kind of, if you've seen Doctor Who before, it suddenly brings all those Doctor Who vibes into it and sort of fills out the world a bit in ways that they didn't really have to work for. They just tap into that storyline. So it seems to me like they might be riding on the benefits of that Doctor Who connection a little bit.
Though it doesn't fill out the world. I think it shrinks the world.
Real well said. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, there's always this shadow world that it's trying to be like. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We're on past a 22 movie, 2 series journey. Like, we're not going anywhere. Like, you have your audience. Yeah. You've got us. I mean, I just don't understand this hard pivot, because the first 2 episodes, this world was massive, and I am being very literal right now. And by the time we got to episode 3, I mean, the sets were small. You know what I mean? And that makes a difference. It felt so fake. There was really no wonder. I felt like I was on a soundstage for the entire
very true.
episode.
Very true.
And there wasn't enough action to kind of balance that out. It was 2 actors on a soundstage in front of a green screen, and you felt it. And I guess it was supposed to be cute and clever. I mean, the MCU is such a massive world.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they chose to keep up with the shtick for as long as they have.
And even B-15's moment of awakening, it was
ridiculous.
It was dramatic, but it was like very fast, and like she's been doing this for as long as she knows, forever. And then all of a sudden she has this identity conversion, and
I think, and we didn't, I think the reveal of the timekeepers really pissed me off, because again, and we're not centering, but we're making a point of having Black women as prominent personalities and characters in the TVA. This whole time, nobody knew they were talking to puppets until our white saviors, step in and pull the curtain back, and we've been duped the whole time. I mean, it just fucking sucks. I'm sorry.
No, hey, honesty's honesty.
Sorry.
Right?
I was kind of like, I feel like, and I think Leandra, was it you who said this, that they, kind of try and like dupe and B-15 every chance they get.
Yeah. No, they were doing that a lot. And at the end of our last podcast, we kind of said, episode 3 is important. And at the end of episode 3, I said to myself, episode 4 is important. And now I feel like episode 5 is important. In other words, they got this ball of yarn, and at some point it's got to work. And the reveals that they're having, they're fine, but they don't feel like they're plot progressing. It just feels like they're peeling back a layer on a shallow level. God, we're really trashing this right now, guys. But why do this if we're not going to be honest, right? It's just not living up to the promise of what Disney's been doing.
And I do, to your point, Cianna, I do agree about the women and the women of color in the TV and how they're being portrayed, because even, and I don't remember her name, the judge, she starts off as someone that like Mobius undermines, and she's just kind of like, and then when she finally asserts herself, it's to be a villain, and like her entire personality changes from someone who's like curious and just running the show and like trying to keep things going to a petty villainous. Like, I think that there was no reason, I don't know, like either she's being dicked over by the white guy or she's a bad person. Like there was no in between. There's no, or
she's the lead Loki,
or you see her in this position of authority, and like you said, Leandra, they're slowly chipping away at that. So it's like, how did this person who was tricked by a child, and when I say basic, I mean, she literally just like grabbed her iPad out of her hand or whatever they're called. And like, I guess she's been, I don't know. It just seems really, really silly. And now it just seems like she's trying to hold the entire TVA together, as well as her reputation. And I don't know. It's weird.
It is. And when she was having that conversation with Mobius, they were sitting on the couch and having a drink, and she says to him, if you could go anywhere, anytime you want, where would you go? I think she was actually testing him to see if he would say a time from his lived past, so that she could find out that he was not, that he was not necessarily consciously aware, but at least he was being primed by a past life. And he didn't give any clue that was the case. But that leads me to think that she's running the whole place. and it leads me to believe that it's not a place.
Why couldn't you have told us that in the beginning, though? Like, why wasn't that, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
That could have been a reveal. That could have been, you know, our B story. If she's playing such an important role in this universe, I would like to have known a little bit more about her.
Mm-hmm.
It's I don't know.
I feel like it's about Loki. And so I feel like the white narrative was always going to be in the front of it, especially when you're talking about this god who's always been a little narcissistic. I use little lightly, but it's always been a little narcissistic. And I think what they haven't done a good job of is balancing that with this idea of Black suffering. And because the three women that have taken central roles have all been women of color, C20, A23 and Ravonna, and B15. And one ends in death, one ends in tears, and one ends in villainy, right? And that's countered by the white narrative of heroism, with Sylvie and Loki really being redeemed. And I think that, I don't know if, and again, if they didn't know, it's sloppy writing. I don't know if that's intentional, but it's coming through very clearly. And that if it's not intentional, I wonder if there's a way to, if they're ever going to go back and rectify it, right? Are they going to talk about it? Are they going to notice it? Are these going to be are these characters going to come back at some point in time and be given joy? You know.
Oh, well said. You know, first episode, second episode, we were saying, what are they doing to these characters of color? They've got to be doing this intentionally for some sort of reckoning or payoff later in the series. And I said at that time, if they don't do that, shame on Disney. I mean, it not just shame on Disney, but it's so doubly stunning given what they've been doing in their other stuff as of late. So that's why I said I keep rooting for the plot, because I guess I'm just really disappointed if they don't rectify, if they don't reckon these things that they've done in these first episodes.
I agree, particularly because I don't think they needed to try to redeem Loki. That's already happened with Ragnarok.
My God, yes.
We don't need to see it again. Like, he can be the villain. He doesn't need redemption. There needs to be accountability, real accountability for him. And so if you're going to put all these players in these boxes like you have been, to not hold him accountable and his current, you know, not that he's held accountable later, but, you know, Ragnarok, that. It's just such a, like, and I don't know, you know, Tanya, I'm with you. I don't know if this is like some sort of intentional thing. It's a different writing room. Is this implicit bias coming through in all kinds of ways through the writing, which probably a little bit of everything above, but like, it does not bode well for the future of like this grander arc that they're building to in their next phase, you know.
And if they end it this way, they're just gonna get mowed over in the Twitterverse. I mean, they're just gonna get mowed over.
Are they being mowed over though? Because I feel like people are still rooting for this show.
Well, I'm rooting for the plot, just because they need to change it, right? They need to tell a better story. They've built a very difficult, somewhat tone deaf space so far.
I don't really have anything on Twitter, but all of my Facebook things that pop up is like negative.
Like, oh, really?
And stuff, and so I don't know, but it might just be that like that's what I'm putting into my Google things, so that's what's coming up. But I think it's also kind of like, has Disney and Marvel created such a whatever, they can do no wrong? In which case, this is even more egregious, because you have the power to change minds, and you're freaking doing this, and implicitly, you know, you're sending this message out to people who may not be explicitly understanding what they're seeing, but they're taking it in. It's a narrative they're adopting. And so
Yeah, I'm going to throw a quote out there that's not my favorite quote, but that's because I don't have a favorite quote that would be a favorite quote because it was good. That's just so mean. But the universe wants to break free, so it manifests chaos. That's poetic, and it's it's a trifling of philosophy. It's if you're going to really talk about the philosophy of chaos and time, you don't make it an agent and talk about it. The universe wants to break free. But that's suddenly what I feel they're really doing. They're kind of being philosophically trite and humanizing the hell out of Loki. And look, they do what they want. This was not what I was looking for. I was looking for an informed take on chaos in order that they dabbled with in the first episode. But so far,
I mean,
That's what
I
they have
want
Jurassic
that
Park
show. I want the first episode. I want
Yeah.
that series. I don't know what happened.
can we make our own variant?
Right?
Yes. But I was gonna say, you
Still waiting
know,
for that show.
and that's another thing, like we keep coming back to like, oh, this is like Doctor Who, and like even the whole like the universe wants to break free. That's Jurassic Park. Like it's been done. Like chaos comes through, like Mother Nature shows up and says, nah, like, you know.
They did a better job of chaos in Jurassic Park. I'm sorry.
Here's the water of the little
one little
kid.
thumb, exactly. You know. Yeah.
When Jeff Goldblum does a better job of philosophy than you do.
All right, I love Jeff Goldblum. Leave him alone.
I'm just saying, 5
Jeff
minutes.
Goldblum in Ragnarok was about my favorite role in him.
Hilarious.
It was good. It was so good. I feel like that's him. Like, I don't know that he was acting.
All I needed was a piano and a suit. You just sit there. Yeah. Well,
I have the only quote that I remember from episodes 3 and 4 is "The love is a dagger," just because it was so nonsensical, and I feel like this should relate to fans because you're like, I went in really loving this idea and this show, and what I ultimately found is everything is imaginary and fake, and it's turned on me. So love is a dagger.
Loki would never say that. Like he would
I know,
never.
that also seems so weird.
Oh.
Loki would be like, "What?" If someone said that,
When he said that, I literally was like, what is he saying right now?
Right.
It was
Right.
so
That was like
so weird.
simultaneously too romantic and not romantic enough for a Loki quote. So you know what I mean? Like Loki is someone who's like, he's one or the other. Like he's not gonna. I
the
don't know.
fireworks.
It
Yeah.
wasn't even
On your hand, that's fine.
sense. It didn't even make sense.
Didn't make any sense.
I was like, this is dumb. So that's what I remember.
I don't know what the good part of a dagger is. I mean, you know, if love is a dagger, that means it's supposed to be pain and joy, but I don't know what the joyful part of a dagger is.
Well, you got to leave it in because if you pull it out, you bleed out. So it's like once you have it, you can't let it go. I don't know.
All right, I'll give you.
Leandra, that's a better analogy to love. Once it's in, it's got to just stay. Pull it out, you bleed out and die. That would have been more Loki than what he said.
No. Yeah.
Oh, man. So anyway, that's
No.
what I remember.
Well, this might be our briefest podcast yet. And what I'm fine with is if it is what we're feeling it is, then crap, right? I mean, just but like I said, I'm going to root for the plot and assume they've got some whoop ass they're going to throw at me, and I'm going to get it. And everything I've said here has been silly, but
I'm still here. You left me on a great cliffhanger in episode 4. I'm tuning in tomorrow, and I'm
There you go.
hoping for the best.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
And we did talk about it, and I think this has been coming up a couple times, is that with the other characters, maybe they weren't as big, and so they got to really flesh out the roles. And with Loki already being a big character, are we actually just building bridges to the next movie or the next thing? So it's really more of a plot filler, in which case, you know.
In which case I didn't need it. I was very content with WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, just on a Marvel high.
Yeah.
This, I'm yeah.
Well, if they're gonna, we talked the other last time about the idea of merging this idea of time travel with the notion of the quantum realm. I thought totally cool. Of that, then you talk quantum time in a quantum realm way. You get a different approach to thinking about time, and that could have been cool. Saw nothing like that in the third or the fourth episode. Nothing challenging traditional humanistic notions of life and such. So if they're really going to do something different, and they've got 2 episodes to do it, as a criticism, I don't feel any tension about where it's going. I just don't feel any tension about where it's
Everybody
going.
has that are incredibly powerful, but yet nobody really secures them.
No,
Person at all. I don't understand.
It should be like under their dermis, and they just like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't. Okay, so I had 2 thoughts, and they're funny, and we're just kind of at that point. But like, Cianna, when you were talking about like, I didn't need this for like the next movie, it reminds me of me playing God of War, where like I didn't need to play the first 3. I just read the synopsis for 7 minutes, like Tanya does for everything else. Like, that's what this could have been for me. And then I forgot what the other point I was gonna make. Damn it. I got stuck on God of War. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, this could all have been a television without pity synopsis.
See, oh, I remember now. That's what I want, though. I want Sylvie and Hunter B-15 to ride off into the sunset together while blowing at the TVA.
Ooh.
That's just my hope. I know I'm not going to get it, but if I were to write the ending,
they got
like, you had me at, you woke me up.
Just like how I wanted Ruby and Christina right off of the sunset at the end of Lovecraft Country. And just right off to their spin-off show where they solve crime.
Yeah. See how well that worked out, huh?
Yeah. Well,
damn it. I'm not gonna get
they haven't done
You're not gonna get it.
They haven't done enough work to establish this timeline as more powerful than Thanos. Right? They haven't done the work to really make me feel like the TVA is protecting something really important. They've told me, but Wanda's trauma was more important than this. And it's like, that's the thing. I don't know if they understand what they built before, and you can't just tell me something. Oh, by the way, that whole MCU, yeah, it's caught up in this. I'm sorry you told me, but I don't feel it. Right. So
yeah. I mean, it's all about stakes. I mean, the stakes are just not high.
No.
I feel like in the Falcon and Winter Soldier, Falcons, the boat in North Carolina. I'm more concerned about that boat and refurbishing that boat.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Than I am about, the TVA. Like, I just don't care.
Yeah.
And
well, because there's no real hero, there's no real villain, there's no emotional attachment to anything at this point in time. So
little attached to Mobius. Like, I did actually go when he got like but like, like they could shave his mustache and make him a different character and I'd be just as happy. So.
And why did you give me 2 episodes of Mobius just talking? Just a dialogue with Mobius and Loki. Mm-hmm. Just to prune him.
Yeah. That was actually a shocker for me. I was like, damn.
He better come back.
Yeah, I was a little surprised they would do that at that point in the series. So like that does lead me to believe he's going to come back. But if he does, it's got to be in a different way. Not that there's a timeline and he's a different variant, but that the whole timeline thing is questioned, right? That not just there is a timeline and who's the TVA, but is this timeline thing even real, or is this all just a Loki dream? I mean, just something's got to be different, because I don't care about the timeline that they're showing us, and maybe
that's you know, that's what we're supposed to feel. And maybe we're supposed to be like,
Yep.
oh, now we're invested in this multiverse of madness and we want all the Nexus events because maybe the sacred timeline is evil. And but again, I think like it goes back to what y'all have been saying, is that show me not tell me piece of it. The writing hasn't done a strong enough job of getting at least the four of us super invested. I think we're waiting for a payoff, but we're not necessarily hooked to the show. And I think there's a difference. Whereas for like, I remember for WandaVision, I was like, I'm ready. I'm here. I'm ready to watch it and ready to go.
All the emotions.
Yeah.
All the emotions. Falcon and Winter Soldier, I mean, I feel like, Scott, when you say, I don't care about the timeline either. And I feel like when they was it episode 3 or 2 when they were in the Best Buy and she exploded all the little, when you saw like everybody at the TVA freaking out with just this line. All these tiny little slowly like threads that was an allegory for this entire show. Like that's they tried to tell us. Like that's it. That was, you know.
Now they could be
sort of the climax of the whole thing. Like it's not gonna get any more exciting than this. We're just gonna
Yeah, I wonder if they were trying to go after a sort of campy nostalgia for Doctor Who. In other words, we're supposed to experience that as camp and appreciate it that way. The thing is, I never got sucked in that way. I saw the Doctor Who vibe, but I never felt like, oh, this is cool. I said, oh, I see what you're doing. But I just don't think they did British humor as well as
I was gonna say
they do in Doctor Who.
That level of campy can only be pulled off by Brits. Like, I'm sorry. Just like let them do their thing. They're only good at so many things. Like, let them have it.
Doing well in soccer right now, you know.
Yeah, let them have it. Like, I'm gonna keep my biscuits and coffee, and they can have campy humor. I don't know. Tanya's laughing at me. I'm hungry.
I'm hungry. I like tea, so I'm glad for that. So, but yeah, I am curious about the payoff. I am curious about episode 5 and 6 to see if they can kind of right the ship, you know. So I guess that's what's keeping me going.
And this is all documented right now. So if they right the ship, I'll eat the crow, right? I will complain that there's certain things that are just a little too little, a little too late, right? I need to be in the quantum realm now. You need to deal with time seriously, not just poetically and blah, blah, blah.
I would have liked a little bit more magic as well.
Yes. Okay, they're both. She's an enchantress. He's whatever that classification is.
Yeah.
Like, you guys are like, you've both been.
You shouldn't be fighting anyone. You should not be swinging, carry a sword or throwing a punch. I'm like, why are they fighting their way like out of every situation? I don't understand.
I think you guys have just really hit onto a big problem, and that is this world that they're showing us is just boring. I mean, you know, when they went to Pompeii, okay, that was kind of token cool for a little bit, right? But why haven't they been doing a little more of that, right? Getting out, using time and actually getting out into these bigger spaces instead of just fighting the same time people, and it all feels like they're in their own Wanda bubble.
But they're like physically fighting. You're magical beings, like you're gods. Why are you physically fighting people? I don't understand.
Like, I feel like I need to go watch the scene in Ragnarok where he fights, because like he fights with magic multiple times.
Right.
Like, he's much more skilled with the daggers, you know, like it should be you brought this up, Cianna, it should be better choreographed. You know, the thing that I still remember is like when they were at that Renaissance festival and they were all fighting. I don't actually remember the fighting. I just remember the song, and the song was like pumping me up. But then if you take away the song, you're like, oh, everything's in slow-mo. They're not actually fighting well. So
Man, you know you've done something poorly if the fight scenes are worse than the fight scenes in Iron Fist.
They were.
I mean,
They were.
Yes.
It
Fist was
like
the bottom.
the God class at the Y. It was
My
so
God.
slow.
Compared to the fight scenes in
Okay.
Daredevil, which I would argue are the best fight scenes ever put on film, save maybe some kung fu movies I like, but man, Iron Fist that had to be intentionally bad. Those fight scenes had to be like camp, right? It couldn't have been like, let's get serious and try to choreograph a fight scene, because it was horrible. Yeah.
Also, I need to correct myself. Loki did not fight with magic in Ragnarok. I thought he did.
Mm.
Did he not?
No, he's using daggers. Tanya.
You were laughing so hard in Ragnarok, it didn't matter, right?
It was magic to me. It was like
Ragnarok was such a fun movie, man.
but he's like so powerful and all the other stuff. They put him in a special prison to contain him. Like,
and that's why I thought it was, you know, the whole episode 3 was that weird dream, because he's never been strong, he's been skilled. And when that building was falling and he pushed it away, I'm like, he's not strong enough to do that, because they built him up to be, as a Loki should, he's sly and strategic and skilled. He doesn't rely on brute force. And again,
illusion.
They haven't played to the characters, you know.
Isn't he quite the illusionist?
yes.
Right? And we've not seen him do that much.
Turns himself into other people, or he disguises himself as other people.
No. So you wonder if maybe that's part of the plot, that somehow we're not seeing the Loki, right? That maybe what we're seeing is an illusory Loki. I don't know. Again,
All I
that's
can
me
say
just
is
rooting for the plot, man.
I feel like a Loki who just got his ass handed to him the way he did in the Avengers movie and immediately found himself at the TVA would be different. A little bit more aggressive, a little bit more pissy. Like, he just had a Hulk throw him across the room like 500 times. Like, it's just not where I would imagine Loki like sitting after that defeat.
No, I got to tell you what, I think he gave up his emotions a little too easily. And
it took 2 other movies to redeem him in the other arc. It's going to take an episode, and this one, like, it just doesn't.
Still don't understand how he fell in love. I was like, what have y'all done to fall in love? I guess you both have a plane, and you're both gonna die.
They're
Maybe
gonna
that's love.
Yeah, they're gonna give us some
chemistry. I'm not.
I didn't mind the romantic scenes as long as I, encapsulated them as just that scene and not really having to contribute to a bigger plot. There were some looks on his face that I thought were pretty complex in some of those scenes, but yeah, I think they're going to end up telling us quite a bit in these next 2 episodes. That's supposed to get us to reorganize all of this. But I do wish, if you're going to do time travel, take it out to the different worlds, right? Yeah.
Set some hard and fast rules at the beginning. Let us know how it works.
Yeah.
It's like Lovecraft. Like, if you're going to do magic, let us know what the magic is. Explain the magic to me. I don't want to be guessing. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Let us know.
And then act your world in those contingencies. That's exactly the case. That's the challenge. Yeah.
But this was the concern. I remember the first time we talked, right? This was the concern. If you're going to do time travel, you got to set out the rules. And we're not playing with the complete set of rules. All we know is that the TVA wants this. And maybe we're supposed to be looking at it as we're one of the agents. We just don't know. And we're coming in with incomplete information. But that's a lot.
Because we're variants too, man.
We're variants.
Right, I mean, there you go.
I'm not high enough for all that.
Put on some Pink Floyd, you'll be fine.
I mean, we just got legalized pot here. I'm just catching up.
I got you. Yeah. I interrupted you, Tanya. I'm sorry.
It's good. I was gonna say that's really existential if you just sit here and think that we're variants, but yeah, I feel like we don't know everything, and maybe we're not meant to, but it makes it harder to enjoy the show.
That's true. There's no joke we're in on.
Yeah.
There's
It's too
no
much
joke
work
that
on our
we're in
part.
on. Now there is in jokes going on in the world of fandom in terms, haha, I know all that happened in the comics. Haha, I know that Kang's coming. Haha, I'm a Doctor Who fan. So out in the verse, there's all this, you know, stuff that people have with it. But yeah, there's no, we're not invited to a mystery that where we're in it with a character. And you know, more you talk about it, Loki's just, he's not supposed to be a sulking whiner. He's a badass.
He was.
Well, fair enough. Fair enough.
He was. Maybe this is what happened. He's also dead. So
Exactly.
that could explain.
So
Man,
funny. Yeah.
now I just want to go back and
Variant of Loki.
yeah, I just want to go back and watch Ragnarok. Like I just need like palate cleanse.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
that's very good.
I mean, I hope this doesn't hurt Tom Hiddleston's chances of actually playing the Doctor, because I think he would be a great Doctor.
I agree.
I think
That's a really good point.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Maybe this is just one long audition.
Oh, is he in the running for that?
Who knows? You never
Yeah.
know with the Doctor. It's really weird. They just like announce like some random person's going to be the Doctor.
Yeah.
It's always like.
Oh, they just announced they're doing the 60th anniversary, and I think David Tennant and a couple other doctors are going to be in on it.
But I think he would be an excellent Doctor.
That would be such a good time too to like switch him out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the hard thing about being a doctor is just being your own doctor, right? You just, how do you do your own doctor? And you know, I
How
thought
do you distinguish yourself from the other variants?
exactly for me, Tom Baker and David Tennant were the ones that just really captured the role in their own way, in their own time, and really rocked it. Yeah, I've seen some of the others, but none of them.
I like Peter Capaldi. I like the skulky, like just miserable,
Grumpy old man,
grumpy ass Doctor. Thought he was funny. I thought he was really, really good.
Cool.
Tennant is still my favorite, but I think that's just because like, just he's my type. Tennant.
But his relationship with Rose was probably as good as Mulder and Scully on X-Files in terms of sexual tension, right? It was just one of the best, whatever you want to, one of the best couples together for a long time with unrequited love that I've seen. So, and I just said that because I started watching X-Files again the other night. But
Tennant is my favorite, but I mean a close second is Eccleston.
Yeah.
Talk about the pressure of having to resurrect a series like that. And he aced it. It was great.
I thought he did a really good job too. Like when you get the backstory too, like he's coming off the war and everything, like he's hardened but still funny, but like, and then they like do the whole thing where like he became the 10th Doctor so that he could be more in Rose's space, you know, and like be less jaded. Anyways, Tanya, I'm sorry. I know we're talking about like this whole like.
I'm Googling Doctor Who and reading the Wikipedia as y'all are talking. So
let me just say, when you look it up, Bad Wolf, like I'm gonna have that tattoo one day. Like that's gonna be my thing. It's just Bad Wolf.
But I don't know. We'll see. I'm excited for tomorrow's episode.
Exactly. I look forward to watching it.
I'm really hoping I stay awake.
I hope they surprise me. I really do hope they surprise
me. Shocked.
Exactly. All right. Any other final comments about episode 3 or episode 4? Well, okay, then that about wraps it up for tonight's discussion. So thanks so much for tuning in. Fellow Valkyrie, please tell the audience where they can find you on social media, and we will begin with Cianna.
You can find me on Twitter at CC Greaves. That's at CICIGREAVES.
Fantastic. Leandra.
Hi, you can find me on Twitter at Parris Leandra, at PARRIS Leandra.
Fantastic. Tanya.
Not on Twitter. You can't find me.
Still maintaining the mystery vibe. You can find me on Twitter at @dark_loops, and you can find all episodes of the Valkyrie Files at the Dark Loops production channel on YouTube. If you'd like to leave feedback about this podcast or any other podcast in our series, just send a message to darkloopsproductions@gmail.com, and we'll be sure to read it at the end of our next podcast. So there it is. From all of us to all of you, big hugs, and remember, root for the plot. Is that good? Did we just go
That
out?
was perfect. I think that was perfect.
I'll stop.